Welcome back to The Social here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Harry, Symeou and the fantastic Kweku Afari. We're going to turn our attentions to Liverpool now. 3 wins from 3 at the start of the Premier League season. Kweku, what have you made of them under Arne Slot so far? I've got to say, I've been really, really impressed.
I've been very impressed. And one of my bold takes at the beginning of the season, which is a very cold take right now, is that Liverpool weren't going to finish in the top 4.
Wow.
I thought that when you look at the history of football, the man after the man always struggles. You look at dynasties. You look at Manchester United. Obviously, David Moyes struggled after Alex Ferguson. You look at Arsenal, and despite the fact that Arsene Wenger was on the downturn, it didn't work under
Unai Emery. Still managed to make it worse. Don't
yeah,
worry about that.
you had to slip that one in there. It's hard to follow the guy, but the thing I forgot about is that Liverpool still got 3 or 4 of the best players, if not in the league, in the world. Alisson is still a superhero. Van Dijk is still a superhero. Salah is still Salah, and Trent on this day is still Trent Alexander-Arnold. And when you've got a core of those players that are still, I know that you look at Salah, you look at Van Dijk, and they come towards the end of their prime, but they've still got 4 of the best players in the league. And when you've got that, you've got a solid foundation. But on Arne Slot, his communication skills are impeccable. You see him after games and the way he can communicate his point and break down tactics. I know Liverpool fans probably want him to stop doing that because he's giving away a little bit to the opposition, but he's so articulate. He kind of gets it. He understands what Liverpool are, and he's not trying to be Jurgen Klopp. He doesn't do the fist pumping and stuff. He's very reserved. He's very contained, and he's very methodical. And what he's given to Liverpool is an element of control. It's not so much that gegenpressing up and down basketball kind of football. It's controlled, and you heard Andy Robertson talk about it after the Manchester United game. He goes, defensively, we're more solid. We feel like we're not going to concede as many goals, and they haven't conceded a goal this season. So credit to Liverpool, credit to Arne Slot, and they've been very considered, and I really like what I've seen. And I don't know if they can challenge for the title. I don't know if they're as good as Arsenal and Man City, but they're bankers for the top 4.
Yeah, for me they are. And at the moment, I'm including them in the title race. Okay. Because of what I've seen so far. We know that they had the ingredients there. They can score goals, no problem. And as you say, he's given them that ability, I think, to control games a little bit better. But the communication bit is key. We can spend all day talking about the tactics and the tweaks and the adjustments. But I think when you come in to a job like that, where you are following on from a legend, I think most people are realistic enough to understand that there's probably going to be a bit of a drop-off until you get your ideas in place. And okay, we haven't seen that just yet in terms of their performances and results. But what Arne Slot's able to do is communicate so effectively that even if you see that drop-off, if you believe in what he's saying and what he's telling you as a fan, you're going to give him that time. You're going to give him that leeway. That was the big difference at Arsenal between Emery and Arteta.
Exactly.
Arteta could tell you what he wanted to do, and you could choose to buy into it or not. But Emery couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I know there was a language barrier issue, etc., and that's not his fault. I get that. But that made the world of difference because people were coming away from interviews, press conferences, scratching their heads, trying to figure it out, trying to read between the lines. And then often you'd read it wrong and then you'd see it in a completely different light and you couldn't figure it out. Arne Slot is going to talk his way into buying himself more time than maybe anyone else would get because he's so strong in that department.
He is, and I think with Arsenal, it's a great comparison. You saw it in Arteta's 3rd season because he finished 8th. Obviously, that's Emery's team, whatever, he had half the season. Then the next season, he finished 8th. But the season where you finished 5th, and you were basically in contention to finish in the top 4 and had a poor end to the season, his ability to communicate meant that fans were still bought in. There weren't fans calling for his head. He was still in favour with football fans because he can communicate. I can't even communicate now. Could communicate his point. But he's a manager that, in Arne Slot, he's doing it his own way. He's not trying to be a Jurgen Klopp. I really respect that. And when you look at the best managers in this league, they're the best communicators. Look at when Jose Mourinho first came in. And again, the English wasn't perfect, but you understood exactly what he was saying. You look at Mikel Arteta, you look at Pep Guardiola in his own way. But I really think that Liverpool are onto something good with Arne Slot here. I think that they've landed on gold. And I didn't think you could ever get a Shankly-Paisley situation, and I don't think that Arne Slot's going to win 3 or 4 European Cups with Liverpool, but I think he's going to be very successful because from the off, he's communicated what he wants to do, his clear ideas, and the players seem to be bought in. Even the situation we had Trent Alexander-Arnold a couple of games ago, where Trent got substituted and he looked unhappy with the situation, poured cold water on that and said that's not an issue and moved on with it. I feel very harsh doing this, juxtapose that to Erik ten Hag. Erik Ten Hag, and again, I don't want to lament managers for their broken English because it's not their first language, but Ten Hag struggles to communicate his point, and then you get him arguing with journalists, whereas Arne Slot can really communicate his point, engage in banter as well, and yeah, they're onto a good one then.
It's not just about managing the team anymore. It's about managing the ownership, the directors of football, and maybe more importantly than anybody, the media and the fans.
Yes.
And that's what Arne Slot seems to be able to do. Mo Salah dropped a massive hint on Sky that this will be his final season at the club. He said that there was no contract offered to him at the time he gave that interview. Let's hear what former Liverpool midfielder Danny Murphy has had to say regarding Salah's future.
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say I don't think there was any cynicism in his interview. I think he just, in a very relaxed, brutally honest way, was talking about his predicament, and I quite liked it. He looks super sharp. He looks great. But going back to your question, I think it's quite strange that there hasn't been a conversation of sorts, which would start even initially with a conversation about what are you thinking? Do you want to stay, or whatever, however you want to have the conversation, because even if there is some thinking around Liverpool not wanting to pay what he's earning moving forward for a 32, 33, 34-year-old, there could easily be a conversation about, look, we'd like you to stay, but it might have to be on reduced terms, or it might only be a year, or whatever it may be. That conversation should have been had at least with his representative. I'm amazed there's been no conversation at all.
What have you made of that, Kweku? First of all, what did you make of the interview?
Yeah.
And then what do you make of the fact that Liverpool seemingly haven't taken a step to try and keep Mo Salah beyond the end of this season?
It was a candid Mo Salah. It was a relaxed Mo Salah. He started the season on fire. 3 goals and 3 assists in 3 games, 6 goal contributions in 3 Premier League games. He looks like the Mo Salah of old, in incredible shape. But Alex Crook, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, did report yesterday that Liverpool plan to open talks with Mo Salah over a new contract in the near future. He said that the Anfield hierarchy relaxed about Salah's situation, with talks scheduled to take place with the Egyptian superstar and his advisors imminently. So it's a situation that I think that Liverpool are confident and comfortable in. Salah's confident and comfortable in, and I think they'll get the deal done. He's not a player that I think is in it for the money. Again, everyone wants to get paid, but he wants to break records. He's more Ronaldo in his essence than other types of players in terms of he wants to break records. He wants to play at the highest level for as long as possible. And I think he will do that, and I think that'll be at Liverpool. There was an interview that resurfaced from a few years ago where he said, I wouldn't really want to play against Liverpool. I wouldn't really want to go elsewhere. Saudi's always going to be there for him because he's the most famous Muslim footballer arguably of all time. But I think Mo Salah, who's still in form, or still 32, 33, I think he's got 3 or 4 years left at the highest level in terms of the shape that he keeps himself in. I think they'll get that deal done, and I think Mo Salah will be a Liverpool player beyond this season.
I wondered at the start of the season if Arne Slot was going to try and not phase him out, because he's too good a player to do that, but try and sort of move away from the attack being so heavily reliant on Mo Salah. But when you see the way he started the season, if you're a manager, how could you possibly do that? Like, you'd be cutting your nose off to spite your face.
You can't. He's one of the best players the Premier League has ever seen. And I understand in terms of moving on and going into a new era at Liverpool, but you can't replicate what Mo Salah gives you. He guarantees you at least 18 league goals every season. He's not gone below that in his Premier League career at Liverpool. And so you got to get that deal done. You got to get the Van Dijk deal done, and you got to get the Trent deal done.
Just on those, Van Dijk and Trent, you're absolutely keeping both of those if you're Liverpool?
I don't know. The Trent one is the most interested one out of all of them. I think they may get the Van Dijk deal done, although when Van Dijk first found out that Klopp was leaving and they asked him about his future, he was not certain that it was going to be at Liverpool beyond the end of his contract. Trent Alexander-Arnold, the fit to Real Madrid is just too perfect, and I just can see him in the white shirt of Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, number 66 on the back of his shirt, celebrating with Jude Bellingham. I can just see it, and so that one I think Liverpool fans will be most worried about, because he's supposed to be their captain for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. He's supposed to be their legend. He's supposed to be their star boy, and so losing him will be painful. And the fact that he's young still. Look at Salah, look at Van Dijk. They're in their 30s, but Trent Alexander-Arnold is in his prime. The fact that the deal has not got done and there's no conversation about it, I would be worried as a Liverpool fan.
Let's say, for argument's sake, that all 3 of these guys leave.
Oof.
Their contracts are out. They all leave. Would that be really bad business on Liverpool's part? Not because they don't need to move on from Salah and Van Dijk, especially at some point. We've talked about their age. You know, Arne Slot's been brought in to build a new team. The Klopp era is over. That's the reality of it. These guys are so good that they're going to spill over into the next era, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if Liverpool were to lose those players, or two of those players, on a free, isn't that bad business? The fact that they had over 100 million on the table for Mo Salah last summer from the Saudis and they didn't take it, that they could have maybe moved Virgil van Dijk on before his contract ran out. And the same with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Wouldn't that represent really bad business?
You can understand the Salah and Van Dijk one. You ride that horse until the horse doesn't ride anymore. But the Trent one, I'll ask you a question, Harry. How much is Bukayo Saka worth to Arsenal?
200 million.
That's how much Trent Alexander-Arnold's worth to Liverpool.
Is he though? Is he?
How much is Phil Foden worth to Man City?
But Saka and Foden score you goals.
Trent Alexander-Arnold gets you assists and he's from the city. There is something different about kids who are from the academy. Trent Alexander-Arnold is world class. He's not going to go to any team in any league. He's going to go to Real Madrid. That's the only team he's going to go to. And so they cannot afford to lose him on a free. That would just be sacrilege. They cannot let that happen, because if they do let that happen, fans will turn very, very quickly. FSG out has gone very quiet. Yeah. But that will rear its ugly head again if Trent Alexander-Arnold is allowed to leave, because business and doing football business is supposed to be their forte. That's what they're supposed to be good at. And to let an asset like Alexander-Arnold leave on the free, that head will roll.
I agree with you that that's the most interesting one of the three scenarios.